api tulyarthadarshinaha, api tulyarthadarshinaha, Narayana paraha sarve, na kutaschana bibyati, sargapavarga narakeshu, tulyarthadarshinaha, paraha sarve, na kutaschana bibyati, sargapavarga narakeshu, api tulyarthadarshinaha. Narayana para sarve aputaschana bibyati sargapavarga narakeshu yatadarshinaha. Word to word translation. Narayana paraha, pure devotees who are interested only in the service of Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sarve, all. Na, not. Kutaschana, anywhere. Bhibhyati, are afraid. Swarga, in the higher planetary systems. Apavarga, in liberation. Narakeshu, and in hell. Api, even. Tulya, equal. Artha, value. Darshinaha, who see. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Devotees solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. Purport. Parvati might naturally have inquired how devotees become so exalted. Therefore, this verse explains that they are Narayana para, simply dependent on Narayana. They do not mind reverses in life because in the service of Narayana they have learned to tolerate whatever hardships there may be. They do not care whether they are in heaven or in hell. They simply engage in the service of the Lord. This is their excellence. Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam. They are liberally engaged in the service of the Lord, and therefore they are excellent. By using the word Bhrutyanam, Lord Shiva pointed out that although Chitraketu provided one example of tolerance and excellence, all the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord as eternal servants are glorious. They have no eagerness to be happy by being placed in the heavenly planets, becoming liberated, or becoming one with Brahman, the supreme effulgence. These benefits do not appeal to their minds. They are simply interested in giving direct service to the Lord. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yenam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pasyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Devotees solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same, for such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. So we see here, this is a verse that Lord Shiva is saying in the assembly of devotees in the context of the cursing of Chitraketu. Chitraketu's story is a very interesting story, and it is a very powerful story that has several lessons for us. It spans about 5 chapters in the 6th canto, from the 14th to the 19th chapters. And all of them are very interesting lessons to learn. The conversation begins with Parikshit Maharaj asking the question, this demon Rutrasura, had so much of wonderful philosophy coming out of him. How is it possible? How can a living entity in a demon's body be situated in so much of Krishna consciousness? Right? That is the question that was asked. And then the story is explained. So Chitraketu, we would have all heard about his story, but we'll just recap in a very short synopsis. He was a big king. He had obstructed reign over his entire kingdom. But he was unhappy for one reason. What was that? Right? He didn't have a son. And the reason he wanted a son was also so that he can train him and give over the control of the kingdom and go do his devotional activities. That was his intention. So he married, a second queen, hoping that, that's going to get him a son. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Then he married a third, married a fourth. How many did he marry finally? Huh? I thought it was like a 1 crore or something. What is it in millions? 1 crore? 10 million. Huh? Some of these figures are bewildering. Because he was a ruler of the entire Bharatvarsh. And so this king was still did not have a progeny. And he was very morose because of that. And then we hear about how Angira Rishi comes at that time. And he requests him, the king takes good care of him, and he requests him, can you please help me in this regard? And Angira says, okay, I will do one yagna, and the phala from the yagna I'll give you. Give it to your Shrestha, the most important wife. And then, you will have a child. And what did he say along with that? Yeah. Right? The son will bring you both happiness and distress. And, this Chitraketu thought, happiness and distress means, some tarla you will do, some this thing. It's okay. It's better to have a child, who does some mischief and all that, than, not to have a child at all, which has been suffering for so long. Well, okay, fine. Whatever. And he was happy. And then the king gave that Yagnashishta to his eldest wife, and was also the most qualified wife. And very soon she had a child. And then what started happening was that this brought so much joy to the whole kingdom, to the king and the whole kingdom. The king was so happy. Finally he had a son. Very nice, beautiful son was born. And everybody was so joyous, and there was big pomp and celebration. But along with this happiness, the seeds of distress were being sown, because the king started neglecting his other wives. And naturally, she was very attached to the child, and because of the child, attached to the mother, and he was spending all the time over there. And envy took over the other wives, to the point, that's why, they say envy is so dangerous, right? It blinds you. These queens got so blinded by envy that they thought of the unthinkable, killing an innocent child. Right? What had that child done to them? Nothing. Right? And they decided to kill the child and poison the child in the night. Next day morning, the child did not get up. And the mother was like, oh, maybe he's sleeping in a little bit more. She waited for some more time and then sent word for the maid servant to go and wake up the child. When the maid servant went there, she saw a lifeless body of a child, cold and blue. And she started crying out. And the mother came running and she started wailing uncontrollably. The king came over there and he was uncontrollably crying. The entire kingdom was drowned in sorrow. At that point, Angira Rishi comes back, and along with him comes Narada Muni. And there is a very wonderful discussion between the two, between the three of them. Narada Muni instructs Chitraketu that this material world is a place of suffering. There's always going to be, inabilities in this world. This is the world of duality. And to really teach the lesson, Narada Muni used his mystic power and brought the child back to life. And they were saying, oh child, look at how much everybody is suffering because you left this body and went. Come back into this body and bring pleasure to your parents and to all these people. And the child said, which parents are you talking about? These people are my parents in this life, but I had so many other parents before. Right? Whom should I give pleasure to? What is all this? Right? And this woke up the king Chitraketu, and the child went away. That soul went away. They did the final rites to the child. And Chitraketu was enlightened at this point. Narada Muni gave him a very wonderful mantra. Right? This was a Sudarshana mantra to worship Sudarshana, Anandasesha. And he recited those verses, and within how many days, or how short? 7 days, he saw the Supreme Lord. Can you imagine? Within 7 days. how powerful, Narada Muni's association is and his blessings are. And so, Chitraketu saw the Supreme Lord, and along with that, he was liberated and he was made the head of the Vidyadharas. And so from that point onwards, he was, Vidyadharas are known for singing very beautifully. And so he was, flying around in a wonderful aeroplane, surrounded by Vidyadhara ladies, and he was singing praises of the Lord. Right? And the story doesn't end there. Right? When he was flying on the aeroplane, he happened to come across Lord Shiva in the Kailash Parvat. He was holding an audience with all the exalted personalities of the universe. Narada Muni was there, the four Kumaras was there, I think even Brahma was there. Everybody, can you imagine if Brahma is there, the entire universe is there. Right? And Lord Shiva was instructing, on devotional service, how to, practice unalloyed devotion to the Lord. And as he was observing that, he noticed that Lord Shiva was actually having Mother Parvati on his lap. And he was embracing her and he was talking. This was, in one sense, an interesting situation. Right? Lord Shiva is there in the middle of all these exalted personalities. This is not some social occasion or something like that. Even in the most social occasion, very friendly occasion, usually the husband and wife embracing each other, sitting on the lap and all that, is meant for more private situation. Not for a public situation like this. Not for a public situation where exalted personalities of the universe are present and discussions of devotional activities are going on. Spiritual subject matters is going on. So Chitraketu, he was surprised by looking at that. And he was thinking like this, and his thoughts sort of verbalized into words. And he ended up saying loudly that, oh, how wonderful it is, that Lord Shiva is like this. He was meaning, and his intention was also that, this is not a good example for the world. People will misunderstand these things. They will misunderstand Lord Shiva and offend him by seeing this. Now, Lord Shiva was such an exalted personality. Chitraketu, should have noticed that Brahma is there, Narada Muni is there, all these exalted personalities are there. In this situation, he should not be, giving feedback. Right? Constructive feedback also, but he shouldn't be giving it to Lord Shiva. It was beyond his, they say Maryada Vikrama, right? It was beyond his means to do that. But despite that, Lord Shiva did not even mind. And now nobody else in the audience minded anything. They were just continuing the conversation. And Lord Shiva was just smiling. Nothing else. But at that time, Mother Parvati takes offense. And rightly so. Because her husband is such an exalted personality. And Chitraketu was not in his, within his means to be giving feedback like this. And so, Mother Parvati reacted a little seriously. Right? She cursed him. She cursed him and said, that you're not worthy of being in this Vidyadhara body. I'm cursing you to become a demon. But she said, "Oh, my son, I'm cursing you to be a demon." And she also did not like curse him in a very, what shall we say, agitated mind or something. She said, "Oh, my son, I'm cursing you to become this." And you should see the wonderful tolerance of Chitraketu. That's what is being talked about over here by Lord Shiva. Now, Chitraketu is being cursed by Mother Parvati. And how does he react? Did he get agitated? What did he say? Huh? Yeah, he says, "Mother, thank you for the curse, in the sense, I'm accepting your curse." And he realized that there was some sense of pride in him, which made him, say these words in the middle of the assembly of people like that. And he very nicely accepted and said, your curse is also a blessing for me. He was not agitated. He was not this thing like, "Arey, what is this? I told the truth, right? And for such a small thing, you're cursing me to become a demon." There was no talks like that at all. And that is why Lord Shiva, he is reminiscing on this and is saying, the devotees, Narayana para sarve. Narayana para, those who are paraha, they're interested only in Narayana, in service of Narayana. Na kutaschana, anywhere. Whether it is heaven or hell, or they're liberated, right? Na kutaschana bhibyati, are afraid. Right? Where either in the higher planetary systems, apavarga in liberation, or in narakeshu, and in hell. And this is a very interesting lesson to be learned here. We'll finish the story and come back and reminisce more on these lessons to be learned. And he accepted the curse. And there's a whole story of how, in a yagna, Vritrasura, he was cursed to become Vritrasura, was a demon that was produced to kill Indra. Now, even in that, as Vritrasura, and he is fighting with Indra, such an interesting, a discussion is going on between Indra and Vritrasura. Because Vritrasura, hits Indra and, his elephant so badly that, his elephant is reeling and, he's falling off. Indra is afraid now. He doesn't even want to fight at this point. And Vritrasura is telling, "Hey, what are you doing? You are fighting for righteousness. You are on the side of right. Why are you afraid to fight with me? You should have resolve, you should have faith in your own dharma. Right? When you're doing something rightful, and you are doing something according to the instructions of your spiritual master, right? According to the instruction of sadhu, guru, and shastra, one should not be afraid of what the outcome is going to be. Sometimes what happens, we'll think, "Oh, if I do the right thing, if I say the right thing, this thing, oh, nobody will like it. Right? I'll become unpopular." Right? In fact, Prabhupada, when he talks about democracy in the way it is today, he says that this democracy doesn't work just because of this. People, who are supposed to, rulers, who are supposed to apply the principles of dharma without thinking about whether they are popular or not popular, right? They are put in a situation where they are thinking about these aspects, and it ends up becoming a very challenging situation. And so you see here that people, especially in this modern world, they will say, okay, I will do things which will people will like. But one should maintain equanimity in all kind of situations. And so Vritrasura is preaching to Indra, hey, fight with me. Why are you this thing? Why are you afraid? And then Indra gets some strength and again fights, and he actually ends up killing Vritrasura. But that is what was destined to happen. So this is that wonderful conversation between Vritrasura and Indra that Parikshit Maharaj was referring to in the beginning. And so now you get the whole context of how Vritrasura was saying these wonderful things. Who was he? He was Chitraketu, who was a Vidyadhara. Before the Chitraketu was a king. And this whole story of several aspects of his life and what's to be learned. And you see how the Lord's situation was. In fact, it is said that I think it was Sankarshana or Sudarshana. Sankarshana, I think, right? Sankarshana or Sudarshana. The Sankarshana, which is Anantashesha. So Sankarshana, Lord Sankarshana actually wanted Chitraketu to come back to him. Because you see, he was such a wonderful devotee and he was missing him and he wanted him to come back. And so he created this situation so that he was cursed and he was quickly, like how long was he a demon? He was a demon for a few hours. He came out of the sacrifice, fought with Indra killed him and he went back. Right? So we see that Chitraketu had so much faith in his devotion and his service to Sankarshana that he didn't bother that he was being cursed to become a demon. So this actually brings up very, very interesting lessons for us as devotees. So what I want to do is, I want to take 5 minutes, 5-7 minutes. I'll just make it into two groups. I think there are very few people here. Let us take some examples in the two groups. One group will say, in really good situations, where everything is going great, take some examples of devotees, 1 or 2 examples of devotees who maintain equanimity when everything is going well. They don't get puffed up, they don't get, carried away by their opulence and the good fortune and the good things going their way. And they still maintain equanimity and then just maintain simple life. And then on the other side, let's take contrast of, again, devotees who are in very troublesome situations. They're put into troublesome situations, but they do not get carried away by it. Right? Because the Bhagavad Gita talks about Sama Sukheshu Dukkeshu Shitoshna Sukha Dukkada. Right? Shita, Ushna, Sukha, Dukkha, we should maintain equanimity. In fact, this one aspect of a devotee's, temperament or attitude is an indicator of their spiritual elevation. Most of the challenges in the world happen in devotees' lives because what happens when Kala puts something in front of us, we usually overreact to it. When something, challenging happens, bad happens, nothing is good and bad in this world. Everything is bad in this world. When something, so quote unquote bad happens, we get so much perturbed. Oh, what happened? Why me? I'm devotee, I'm doing this. Why this is happening? Right? And that becomes a source of some temporary hindrances, at least, in that person's lives. Okay. So we'll quickly split. I think we have less time, maybe about 5 minutes. Let's just go 1, 2, 1, 2 only. I think we lost. You said 1 or you said 1, 2? 1. You can go 2, 1, and Prabhu can go. Badahari Prabhu can be 2. Okay? 1. Two. So ones can come here, twos can come here. Just shake up a little bit. So once remember, please take some examples of devotees who were put into very favorable situations, but they maintained equanimity. And how did they exhibit that? And devotees who are in unfavorable situations, but they still maintain equanimity. So let's take some examples. And how do we practice that practically? You have time, just 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 7:20. How can that be possible? Everybody forgotten the numbers in 2 minutes. Huh? We are almost equal numbers they were. Everybody is positive only. Good. Yeah, good situation. One is good situations and they maintain equanimity. Ativrishti, anavrishti. Now suddenly more. You can come, I guess doesn't matter, you can go in either way. You can come here maybe. That seems to look a bigger one. She was this. Go here, go here. Okay, quickly. 7:26. 3-4 minutes you have. Yeah, just use other mic. It's not there. Huh? What about the box is there? In that box it might be there. You have to release it though. You have to turn it on. Or you know how to turn it on?